Stephen awoke in a daze, his head pounding, his thoughts foggy. He could barely remember how he ended up here, wherever here was. The last thing he could remember was walking down a corridor, the fluorescent lights flickering above him, the sound of his own footsteps echoing in the empty space. But now he was somewhere else entirely. He was standing in a room, the walls covered in a faded yellow wallpaper, the floor damp with an unknown liquid. The room was lit by a single flickering fluorescent light, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. Stephen tried to gather his thoughts, to remember how he ended up here, but it was like trying to grasp at smoke. His memories slipped through his fingers, leaving him with nothing but a vague sense of unease. He took a step forward, the damp carpet squelching beneath his feet. He tried to reach for his phone, but it was gone. He tried to remember how he got here, but it was like trying to recall a dream upon waking. All he knew was that he had to find a way out. He began to walk, each step taking him further into the labyrinthine maze of rooms and corridors. He tried to keep track of where he was going, but every turn seemed to lead him deeper into the bowels of the building. The fluorescent lights above him hummed and buzzed, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The sound echoed in his ears, like a chorus of voices whispering secrets he couldn't quite grasp. He walked for what felt like hours, the monotony of the yellow wallpaper and damp carpet beginning to wear on him. He felt a growing sense of unease, a feeling that he was being watched. Suddenly, he heard a noise. It was faint at first, but it grew louder and louder, until it was deafening. It was a low, guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Stephen froze in terror, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't see anything, but he could feel the presence of something in the shadows, something that was watching him, waiting for him to make a move. He tried to run, but his feet seemed to be glued to the ground. He tried to scream, but his voice caught in his throat. He was trapped, alone in the darkness, with whatever was lurking in the shadows. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the growling stopped. The darkness receded, and Stephen was left standing alone in the room, the fluorescent lights above him flickering once again. He took a shaky breath, trying to calm his racing heart. He had to find a way out, had to escape this place before whatever was lurking in the shadows found him. He began to walk again, each step taking him further into the unknown. He tried to keep track of where he was going, but every turn seemed to lead him deeper into the maze. Finally, he came to a dead end. He turned around, trying to retrace his steps, but the hallway had vanished. He was trapped, alone in the darkness, with no way out. He sank to the ground, his body shaking with fear. He knew that he was doomed, that he would never escape this place. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the lights flickered back on, and Stephen found himself standing in the hallway where he had first woken up. He stumbled forward, his legs weak from exhaustion. He could see the exit, just a few feet away, and he knew that he was finally free. But as he reached out to open the door, it vanished, leaving him standing alone in the darkness once again. And then he heard it, the low, guttural growl that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Stephen screamed as the darkness closed in around him, and he knew that he was doomed to spend eternity trapped in the backrooms.